Yep, my Touch ID button, otherwise known as the home button, it's still broken, and at this point, I'm not even going to worry about fixing it. Hello guys, how are you? David Franco here, davidfranco.com. Today's video is all about the iPhone 8, as well as the iPhone 7s. Let's not forget, the iPhone 7s, in theory, could be a substantial upgrade from the iPhone 7. So if you don't want Face ID and wireless charging, there's no reason why you need to go the premium routes with the iPhone 8, when in reality, the iPhone 7s is going to be plenty of just awesome for the average user. That was a horribly framed sentence, but you guys know what I mean. So anyway, let's talk about the iPhone 7s, the iPhone 7s Plus, and the iPhone 8. I quote it because nobody knows what it's going to be called, except for the people working on Apple, obviously. I mean, for all we know, it could be called the iPhone, like X, like a Roman numeral 10, because it is the 10th anniversary of the iPhone, which is a big deal in itself. But Apple's not typically an anniversary type company nowadays, so I don't really see them calling it anything related to its anniversary. But who knows? I could be wrong. I've been wrong in the past, and I would love to be wrong. Okay, so jumping into my predictions, today is the keynote. Yes, I realize that. I'm very last minute, but I wanted to get my predictions out to see how accurate I am. Now, I do have my notes up here, so you'll see me glance. So here we go. First of all, the iPhone 7s. Expect pre-orders on September 15th, and it's going to release on September 22nd. And the same exact thing goes for the iPhone 7s Plus. Pre-order on the 15th and purchase it on the 22nd. So basically, you're going to be pre-ordering this Friday and getting your hands on the brand new iPhone 7s and 7s Plus next Friday. That's typically how it goes. But with the iPhone 8, expect pre-orders to go live this Friday, the 15th, but it's not going to be released until October. And while honestly, I don't expect an actual release date to be given during the keynote. I expect Apple to do the typical shipping in October kind of thing. Think like AirPods all over again. We're not going to have an exact date, but you can expect it within an estimated time frame. So maybe Halloween-ish, which sucks. Yeah, we're probably gonna have to wait, but at least you can get your pre-orders in ahead of time. Okay, so let's talk about specifics. Let's get shipping dates and pre-order dates out of the way. iPhone 7s and iPhone 7s Plus. Here we go. They're both gonna have an A11 chip, and the same goes for the iPhone 8. The 7s and 7s Plus, sorry, will feature the same exact display that you're used to using on the 7 and the 7 Plus. Not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, this is an OLED, not as impressive as Samsung's and LG's displays nowadays. But you know what? It looks great. Now, save that for a bit. The iPhone 8 in theory is going to be a lot better. I'll talk about that in a minute. Expect a possible RAM boost in iOS 11. Apple has never been the type of company to brag about RAM because, well, quite frankly, Apple is in control of the hardware as well as the software. Unlike Google with Android, they don't have complete control over what Samsung does, LG, all the OnePlus phones nowadays, because, well, it's not their hardware. But with Apple, when you integrate the software into your own hardware and vice versa, you have complete control. So that's why it's kind of stupid nowadays to just brag about how much RAM you have in an iPhone. RAM is irrelevant. How you use it, that's where it gets relevant. Improved cameras. Yep, expect improved cameras, but nothing too dramatic. And yes, I do expect the portrait mode to be an exclusive to the 7s Plus and not the 7s. But do expect it on the iPhone 8. And also expect the same exact storage options that we have now. 32 gigs, 128 gigs, and 256 gigs. Now, could they be doubled? Maybe. But honestly, I don't expect them to change at all. Now let's talk about colors. Here's a bold prediction. For some reason, I have a feeling Apple is going to nix the jet black option on both the 7s and the 7s Plus. I think they're going to keep that as an exclusive option for the iPhone 8. Just saying. Now, like I said before, I could be wrong. I would gladly be wrong, but Apple's kind of done this in the past. They keep simple little features exclusive to the more expensive models. And honestly, you can't really blame them. It's business 101. And finally, all models of the iPhone 7s and 7s Plus will feature Touch ID. The home button, it's not going anywhere. And mark my words, the 7s and 7s Plus will not feature anything relevant to Face ID. It's going to be Touch ID, and it's going to be the traditional way of, you know, doing Apple Pay, unlocking your phone, paying for stuff. And I think that's a good thing, because let's face it, not everybody is ready for something like Face ID. Not everybody is ready to lose their home button. You saw how many people lost their shit over the lack of a headphone jack. I never want to use a headphone jack. I don't miss that thing one bit. In my eyes, that's in the past, and Apple has always been a forward-thinking company. But in this case, they're going to play it safe and keep the Touch ID / home button there for the traditional users who don't want to rely on something like Face ID. And this is where the iPhone 8 comes into play. The iPhone 8 is for the serious Apple users. Users like myself who don't mind dropping over $1,000 on a freaking phone. Yes, I will be buying the iPhone 8. I don't care if it's $1,000 or $1,200. I will be buying it because, one, I love Apple. I have a ton of faith in them and in their products. Yeah, they haven't been the best in recent years, but with the iPhone, they typically do not disappoint. And two, this whole YouTube thing is my job, so I'm gonna do my best to get my hands on my very own iPhone 8 on pre-order day. I'm gonna try my best. So I'm gonna make videos on that in the very near future. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about specifics in relation to the iPhone 8. We're gonna have a 5.8 inch edge-to-edge OLED display. Now I say OLED loosely. Apple has been rumored for years to use an OLED display, and it has yet to happen. Yeah, the Apple Watch uses OLED. I think it's technically AMOLED, but it's OLED regardless, and I love it. The blacks are so freaking super rich. I love rich blacks on displays. It's just incredible. It's something you have to experience for yourself, especially in movies, just saying. It just looks amazing. So yeah, I mean, if the iPhone 8 does use OLED, take my money, Apple. That's all I want from you. Besides a larger display and whatever and better specs, but OLED is like at the top of my list of iPhone features that I've wanted for years. Face ID, this is where it gets a little more interesting. Face ID, in theory, could be completely replacing Touch ID. And if Apple does this, I gotta commend them. That's a bold freaking move, because I love Touch ID. It took me a little while to get used to the idea of using it, because I always like the idea of sliding to unlock and whatever without using a passcode. But nowadays, I cannot live without Touch ID. I mean, unless of course I break my own home button by nearly flipping myself off my bike, but that's beside the point. I do love Touch ID. But if Apple can replace it with something even better, in theory, you know, Face ID, then sign me up. And apparently it's gonna recognize 3D features, it's gonna have depth perception, and it's gonna work apparently when it's sitting on your desk. That's just what I read on Mac Rumors. And if that's true, then that could be really, really innovative. Expect improved cameras with the same exact cameras as on the iPhone 7s Plus. So yes, portrait mode will be making a return. Wireless charging could finally be a thing. As much as I love Apple, I have to say this though, expect the typical Apple marketing though. I mean, just, in other words, wireless charging will be there, but it will not be boxed in with the iPhone. It'll be a separate accessory selling for perhaps $99. That might seem a little high, maybe $69 or $79. But yeah, I'll say it again, don't expect the wireless charger to be boxed in with the iPhone. And honestly, you can't blame them. I mean, if I was Apple, I would charge extra for a charger as well. Alright, talking about storage, you can expect the same exact options as on 7s and 7s Plus, 32 gigs, 128 gigs, and 256 gigs. Nothing special there. And again, jet black could possibly be exclusive to the iPhone 8. Okay, so I do have two random notes to wrap up this video. Just some things to keep in mind. I have here, the iPhone 8 display will be larger than the iPhone 7s Plus, but the physical size of the iPhone 8 itself will actually be smaller. Now, as crazy as that sounds, it makes perfect sense. Think about it. The display, in theory, is gonna wrap the entire front edges of the phone, which could look really, really neat, except for up here, of course, because we need the earpiece, you know, the speaker and the camera and whatever. But yeah, so the display will be larger, but the phone will be smaller. And I am 100% for that. As much as I love my 7 Plus, sometimes it is a little too large, especially for one-handed usage when you try to reach over. And yes, I realize you can double tap the home button to bring down the view. I forget what they call it. Reachability, is that it? But yeah, I mean, I would definitely like a smaller iPhone, but bigger display at the same time. That could be really nice. And the home button will likely not be part of the iPhone 8 display. As much as I want that to happen, considering all the rumors I've read, and yes, I realize rumors are not facts, but they're typically spot on nowadays, I just can't see Apple integrating the home button into the display itself, unfortunately. As much as I would love that, because my mind is kind of trained, because again, my Touch ID is broken, but I've been using Assistive Touch, which is that little dot you see. So watch, when I force press it using 3D Touch, it unlocks as if I'm pressing a button. And yes, my phone vibrates real quick, which is really, really nice. So my mind is already used to doing that. So if Apple could perhaps surprise us and come out with an iPhone 8 with Touch ID integrated into the display, that would be just as awesome in my eyes as an OLED display. So we'll see, guys. We'll see. Today is definitely going to be a very exciting day. Enjoy the keynote. Oh, and finally, just go into the keynote with zero expectations. I cannot express enough how annoying it is every time Apple's a keynote. Apple didn't do this. Apple didn't do that. Well, no shit. I mean, Apple never promises anything with their product announcements, especially in regards to the iPhone. They don't have to do anything that we expect. They do things their own way. So once again, go in with zero expectations and enjoy it for what it's worth. And if the iPhone 8 is too forward-thinking for you, then go with the 7S or the 7S Plus, because they're going to be plenty awesome for the average user. Just to put it that way. I'm definitely not your average user, so I'm going to say it one more time. I will be buying the iPhone 8, no matter the price. All right, now he's leaving. I don't blame him. I've talked enough. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 8, even though it's not official yet, but still, I will be making plenty of videos on it in the near future. I'll see you next time. Peace.